so far. Today's presentation is going to give you a good outline of what off-ice training throughout an off-season should look like. So following a plan, well, it matters, right? Like if you want to get to a destination you've never been to before, you plug it into your phone. You figure out what's the best way of getting there, right? Google Maps or Apple Maps, it gives you that direction. It tells you turn left here, turn right there, go straight, right? A plan matters for you to get to where you need to get to. Well, for us as hockey players, having a structured training plan is no different. Not to tempt you, does anyone here think they could bake this cake just by looking at this picture? Right, so I look at it, I'm like, okay, it looks like there's some pecans at the bottom. I think it's a chocolate cake, there's some caramel. So you kind of figure out, well, there's probably some flour in there. Like you start to guess the ingredients of this cake if you wanted to bake it. So looking at the picture, it'd be pretty hard to figure out how to bake the cake. Well, how about now? So here's the ingredients of that cake. So now we know there is 645 grams of sugar in it. Probably not a good cake to eat, however, right? There's 450 grams of flour. So like now you can go through and you know exactly what the ingredients are for the cake. So this is like knowing all the different types of exercises, right? Like if I was to ask you what's a good exercise for your legs, I'm sure you can come up with a few, right? From squats to leg press to lunges. You know the exercises. It's like knowing the ingredients. Now, do you think you could bake the cake based off the ingredients alone? Who's a good baker here? Does anyone think they could do it? Once again, I would have no idea of the order, right? Like, what do I put in first? Is it the milk? Is it the eggs? I don't know. Like, do the pecans go now? Like, I have no idea. So, once again, like relating this to your programming, yes, you might know all the exercises. Do you know the order in which they should actually go in? So now I think you could bake the cake. I think I could bake the cake, right? Step one, do this. Step two, do that. Step three. So all the steps are laid out. So now we have the ingredients list. So we know exactly what's in it. And we have the steps on how to do it. So our end result would look very similar to this beautiful cake. So when you're designing your program or you have someone design it for you, you have to know the order. You can't just guess on the stuff. So once again, having a professional, it helps because they know what to do. So a little quick story. Some of you have heard this before. For those of you that have, we're going to hear it again. It's such a great story. So I was fortunate enough to play junior hockey at Notre Dame. I played there my 19 and 20-year-old year. After my 19-year-old year, having a conversation with the strength coach, going into the off season, I had some goals that I wanted to achieve, right? So I knew my map, right? I knew my end destination. So for me, I wanted to put on muscle mass because I was a skinny little kid. Probably like 185 pounds this height, so in my opinion, pretty skinny. So I wanted to put on like 10, 15 pounds and come back for my final year juniors where I could be more dominant on the ice. Everyone has their own goals, right? Whether you want to get faster, stronger, whatever it is, you have a goal. For me, it was to put on a little bit of size. So I asked him, I was like, well, this program that you're giving me, will it get me that result? He's like, yes, if you do this program exactly how it's laid out, you will achieve your result. So what did I do? Well, I went home that off season and I did what I wanted to do, right? So having no knowledge is actually better than having a little bit of knowledge. Nothing is more like dangerous or detrimental by having just a little bit of knowledge and thinking you know better. So I had a little bit of knowledge. I thought I knew better. And I went through that book and I was like, oh, I don't want to do that. That doesn't make sense. I'm going to do this instead. I'm going to do that. I'm going to start at this point in the program. So I just literally did it however I wanted to. And I went back for my 20-year-old year. It wasn't as good as it should have been. I put on maybe 5 pounds of muscle, which wasn't the kind of the end goal. And I wasn't as effective on the ice as I possibly could have been. So 20-year-old year finishes, go back, trying to figure out where I'm going to play next year. I was like, you know what? I should follow this plan how it's designed. So I literally, from like day 1, to day 90, I followed that program to a T. Sure enough, I put on 15 pounds of muscle, way better on the ice, and then you kind of kick yourself. Well, why did I do that the year before? So don't make the same mistake. I tell my athletes that I work with, the second best way to learn is through your own mistakes. That's the second best way. What's the best way to learn? This is where you interact now and you say something back to me. What's the best way? Put your hand up. I will pick on somebody if you don't. And I know the person who knows they're going to get picked on. So what's the best way to learn? If the second best way is your own mistake, what's the best way? From someone else's mistake, right? Because you can streamline your success. You learn from their mistakes, you don't make the same thing. That takes time. Like before you realize you made a mistake, time has gone by. And time is our most valuable asset, because if you waste it, you're no further ahead. So you gotta take advantage of it. So learn from my mistake. So first off, you need to know where you're going. So this is where you set your goal, right? What's my goal, right? Like I mentioned already, you know, some of you, maybe you do need to put on a little bit more muscle mass. You're stronger in the corners or stronger in front of the net. Maybe some of you need to get faster. Maybe some of you need to improve your conditioning, right? We all know what we need to get better at. Because when you're on the ice, you're like, man, like this is hard for me. If something's hard for you, it means you need to get better at it. So first off, you have to know where you're going. When I'm in the gym and I see, you know, not our hockey players, other hockey players train, they're all over the place with their training. Like they are like going from one exercise to another, not in the right order. So yeah, they might be doing all the right exercises, right? They have the ingredients that they need. The order's wrong, so they're not gonna get that end result. And I think to myself, do they even like know what they're training for specifically? Like, and then they're probably thinking like, why aren't they getting the results I'm looking for? And that's because their training looks like this. Like they start here, then they go way over there, then they're here, and then they're there. And they're not getting anywhere quickly, right? They're not streamlining their process. And so you have to learn from someone else's mistake, have a very laid out structural plan to get to where you want to go. So now, goal versus plan. These are two different things. What do you think is more important? Having a plan or having a goal? Plan? Who thinks plan? Who thinks having a plan is better than a goal? Nobody? Who thinks a goal is better than a plan? And then some people don't think either is important. Okay. So, if I was to line all you girls up on the ice, we're all on the goal line here, and I would say, okay, we're gonna race to the red line. We're gonna see who the fastest is, right? Like, who wants to get there first? Whose goal would be to be the fastest and get there first? Like, if it determined whether you're gonna make the U18 team or not, what would your goal be? You're like, you know, all you girls are skating, the first 10 that cross the red line are making the team. So now, what's everyone's goal? To be top 10, right? That's everyone's goal. Well, is everyone gonna be top 10? No, right? It's impossible. So what determines certain players getting there first? Right? A plan, right? They're faster, right? So they're naturally a faster skater. What has allowed them to become a faster skater? Right? If everyone's been training the same, what allows some people to have more success than other people? Well, they have a better plan. So yeah, we all have the same goal, even though their plan has been better. So every day they go to the gym and do something, they're one step closer to their goal. So yes, I believe you need to have goals, right? You like kind of set your North Star, and then once it's set, you got to figure out what's my plan to get there, right? What's going back to the map analogy? In your Google Maps, when you set your destination, it's pinned. Do you just look at that the whole time you're driving? No, you look at what's the next step. Google Map tells you, turn left ahead. In 500 meters, turn left. That's the next step. That's the next step. And as you continue to follow the next steps, you end up to that pin location. You end up on your North Star. You end up at your goal. So the plan, in my opinion, is more important. So what is this presentation actually about? Well, the presentation is going to be what we call like a 30,000-foot view of what your off-season training should look like. What things should you be doing? What things should you not be doing, right? Like, just because you're working hard doesn't mean you're actually getting closer to your goal, right? Like, if I was to put you all you girls on the line again using a sprint analogy, and I told half of you that you had to like run on the spot, and then the other half even just walked, right? You would be working harder than the people walking, yet they got to their goal, they got to their end destination faster than you did. So hard work isn't everything. So don't think just because I'm working hard, I'm getting closer, because once again, you can run on the spot, tire yourself out, and get nowhere. So we're going to talk about what's actually going to get you closer to where you want to get to, and then I'll provide provide some examples of exercises we do with our athletes, and you just get a clear picture of what that looks like. So there's a couple things, or a few things, 3 things here. So the difference between training age, your chronological age, and your biological age. This is very important. The age you girls are at, you're all at different levels of maturity, physically and mentally. And so you have to know where you are starting. So your training age is literally how long have you been training with either a strength and conditioning coach, a trainer, you've followed some type of structured plan. That's your training age. So if you've only been doing this for a year, your training age is 1. If you've been doing this, let's say you started when you're 12 or 10 and it's been structured and you're 15, well, your training age is 5. So when athletes come into our gym, we ask them legitimately how long you've been training for. And based off their training age determines where they start. Then your chronological age, well, that's just how old are you, right? Your just birth year. I was born, I don't know what year are you born in? 2008, right? So you're 2008, 2009, maybe I don't know if there are any 10s here. That's your chronological age. That's just how old you are. And then your biological age, that's just where are you in physical maturity. So I've worked with different athletes that have come in. So I've had a kid come in who's been 14 years old and has been training since he was 8, legitimately training since he was 8. So I train him differently, and I've had a 17-year-old come into the gym and they haven't had any experience. So the 14-year-old is actually training more advanced than the 17-year-old. And then I worked with these 2 girls, this is years ago. They were both 12 at the time. One looked like a 12-year-old. The other one looked like she was 16. She was built like a 16-year-old. She was strong, she just physically very mature. Once again, these 2 athletes are being trained differently. You can't train like your buddy or train like what you see on Instagram or YouTube because someone else is doing it. You have to do what's right for you. So you need to know where you're at. So does anyone know what type of math question this is in the top right? Who's really good at math here? How about the bottom left? So just quickly looking at which one seems easier to answer. Bottom left. So this is an algebra question. This is a calculus question. So if you can't answer this, chances are you can't answer that. You need to know this before you can do that. You know the answer? Oh, no. Training's the same, right? This is understanding what's my training age, what's my chronological age, what's my biological age. You need to know where you're starting. So if you are starting here, well then get really good at doing this because that's going to give you the most success. That's going to reduce the most frustration. Don't jump here and do more advanced stuff just because it's more advanced. So if you care, the answer is 5 and the answer is 17. I didn't answer. No, I didn't. I didn't do either one of them actually. Anyway, I just thought it was interesting to know the answers. So we need to start building that base. You look at a structure of a building, this is a pyramid. In order to have the tallest pyramid possible, it needs a nice wide base. For us as hockey players, that's called your athletic base. So you want to make that base as big as possible so you can build a nice tall structure on top of it. So the wider your athletic base is, the more athletic you can become because you can actually do more advanced stuff as you work your way through. If you start trying to get too advanced too soon, the height of your building isn't as tall, so you're actually not as athletic. These are the things that we focus on in our off-season program. So we start with isometric strength, so that's part of the base. Core strength, so that is this region here. That's our base. Proprioception, so that is like your understanding where your body is in space. Like we relate how well can you put the brakes on. When you go to change your direction on the ice, the faster you can put the brakes on, the faster you can go in another direction. So you're more agile on the ice. That's also part of the base. Then we get into our general strength, which would be like our phase 1. So for you girls, you want to spend a lot of time there because strength is going to get you your quickest wins. Then we go into power, into phase 2. So we take that strength and then we want to become more powerful with it. So we want to produce force at a faster rate. Acceleration is into our phase 3, as well as our speed, and our conditioning is mixed in this entire program, and we work on different types of conditioning throughout the program, right? You have your aerobic and your anaerobic, keep it as simple as possible. So at the beginning, we're thinking more aerobic, and as we get through, we want to be more anaerobic. So anaerobic is like in hockey, where you go on the ice, you work hard for 45 seconds, you get off the ice, and you rest, and then you go back out on the ice and you repeat the same thing. And the number one focus for us is injury prevention. So here's a schedule that we'll do for our athletes to just give them, once again, a perspective of what this needs to look like. So we're in April right now. You girls have tryouts, right? So you're on the ice preparing for your tryouts. If you don't have any tryouts coming up, stay off the ice. You want to focus on those things I just spoke about. You want to focus on getting in a good frequency of training. You know, speed training is minimal. You want to work on strength and movement qualities. You don't want to advance it too quickly. Think about that base, right? It's that end goal we're trying to get to. You don't want to rush the process. Into May, looks very similar. June, still trying to stay off the ice. Our frequency is still at 3 to 5 days. Our speed training, now we're starting to increase and do a little bit more. Our strength training, we're still, progressing through it. Now we've got some power development coming into our program. Somewhere in there you want to have a deload week as well, which it's a forced rest week, which allows your body to recover. So when you get back in the gym and back into training, you are stronger, right? So your nervous system has recovered and your muscles have also recovered, so you can train harder for that last little bit of your off-season training. And then we like to have our girls kind of go through some reflection on how'd the month go, right? Looking back, where did I start at the beginning of the month and where am I now? All too often as high achieving athletes, all you focus on is that next goal, that next goal, that next goal. And sometimes you forget about where you came from and you're always comparing yourself to well, I'm not there yet. So you feel like you're behind. So it's good to look back and be like, wow, you know what, I started way over there. And now I'm here. I did that all in a month. That's pretty cool. And you're like, all right, well, I want to get there now. So then you don't reflect anymore, and then you move forward. And you're like, hey, a month's time. All of a sudden you're like, holy, wow, I've done so much more again. So it's important to look back and reflect. July, now we want to get back onto the ice, right? Because your season doesn't start till September. You can get better at hockey without always being on the ice. Even though this is a strength and conditioning talk, you can go shoot pucks. I don't know if you play road hockey, you should. You can stick handle it. You can do a bunch of things that is close to hockey without actually being on the ice, and they'll get you better. Actually, much better, because you'll be refreshed when you do step back out there. And then to August, now it's okay, everything's dialed in. We're getting ready for our season, and we want to be peaking at this point, right? So if you don't take that deload week in June, you end up peaking here in July, and then August, you end up kind of doing this before your season, which isn't good. So you want to peak for August, which gets you into September, and then you are ready to go. So our warm-up's probably, once again, the most important part of your training, because it sets the stage of that session, right? And how much you're going to get out of that session. If you don't warm up properly, you're not going to be as strong, you're not going to be as explosive, because your body isn't running as efficiently as it could be. So a proper warm-up is extremely important. So you would look at, what am I doing during my workout today? My warm-up should target those areas. So in here, we're going through some adduction, so we're working on our groins. So we'd probably be doing a lateral lunge for this day. We want length through our adductors, so we're warming up the movements that we're going to be performing during our training session. And then within our training, we want to focus on movements and not muscles. So what does that mean? The upper body has different movements. We have a horizontal push, so this would be anything like dumbbell bench, anything that you're on your back and you're pressing up, right, in a horizontal manner. Horizontal pull, think like dumbbell row. Your body is horizontal and you're pulling something, you're rowing that dumbbell. That's a horizontal pull. A vertical push would be a standing shoulder press. Vertical pull would be all your favorites, a chin up, or a lat pull down, something where you're pulling the weight down. So that is upper body. That's how we would break down our different movements. Lower body, we have a pull, which is a hip dominant exercise. So thinking like deadlifting, anything that's going to target glutes and hamstring. And then push, lower body push, would be like a knee dominant, so like the squats and lunges. Then with our core, we break this down as well. We have an anterior, which is the front side. So if you were to do a plank, that would be working the front side of the core. That'd be an anterior core exercise. Posterior, back side, so like a Superman hold, a bird dog, a bear crawl, all of those would be also targeting the posterior chain of the core. And then we have our lateral rotational. So we break the movements down by movements and body part. So when we're looking at improving strength through movement, what picture here is, an exercise, and which one is more like a movement? So like one of these is focusing more on the muscle, the other one's focusing more on the movement. Who thinks the one on the left is more like muscle? Okay, you girls are smart, the boys don't get that. The one on the right, still working the muscle, it's more movement focus. So which one is better for hockey? Right, so we got to think too, like what's important for us. So if you look at his skating stance, so pink line here, we got his thigh and his shin angle, well that's at 90 degrees. And then you have this vertical line from his toe up, and his knees in front of his toes, so we call that a forward shin angle. So he's in a leaned forward position, and then his upper body will kind of match his shin. So this is where we're playing hockey. So that's what's important. So for hockey players, which squat is better? The left or the right? Everyone that said the left, that is the winner. So if you look, same thigh, shin angle as the guy who's playing hockey. From the toe up, my knee is in front of my toe, same thing there. So this would be, we would call this a knee dominant exercise, and this would be a bilateral, knee dominant exercise, bilateral, using both my legs. Him skating though, is that bilateral or unilateral? Unilateral meaning one leg's working at a time. Unilateral. So the better exercise is this exercise, right? If you look, that's the position he's in, and that other leg, rather than being there, is striding out and pushing into the ice. So if we build good strength in this movement pattern here, we're better on the ice because that's the position you need to be in while you're skating. So here's an isometric strength exercise that we would be doing early on in our off season. So I'm down in that squat position and I'm striding out. What we don't want to have happen though, see how the hip rotates? We're going to lose power on the ice, so we don't want to train that movement. We want to keep that hip locked, so that hip, knee, and foot's in a straight line. As I stride out, it doesn't move. So now I'm developing good isometric strength on that bent leg, also while working on the lengthening of the stride. So I'm very closely mimicking what strength we need when we're skating. Another isometric exercise, this is a hold, so there's no need for a video. So we're targeting the hamstring muscles and the glute muscles. This is still an action that we're gonna need to have when we get into sprinting. So while this is maybe closer to that muscle focus, it's building that foundation for a movement that we're gonna do. So all the athletes we work with, hamstrings are underutilized. They're not strong, and if your hamstrings are not strong, you cannot be fast. So you have to build, we call like that neural pathway, that nervous system from brain to kind of hamstring to get those muscles firing. So when we get into our lunges and our squats and our deadlifts and all those other movements, the hamstring does its job. So we're stronger within that lift, that movement in the gym, and that will translate to when we get on the ice, our athletes are then faster on the ice. Core strength is a simple plank, maybe one of the most butchered exercises, because everyone that planks just sags through their low back. So understanding hockey players, we really like to be in this lordonic position, like right sway back. I don't know if you've gone to a physio or your strength coach mentions it to you. We like to be there because we kind of need to be while we're skating. At the same time, if we train there, then we're going to end up with low back pain, we're going to end up with hip flexor pain, maybe tightness, your stride won't be as long. So by not having a strong core, other negative things will happen which will prevent you from being as effective on the ice as possible. So you want to be flat all the way through. That ear, shoulder, hip height, straight line. If you're to take a hockey stick, place it on your back, the back of your head, middle part of your back, and your tailbone should all be touching that hockey stick. So this is that anterior core. This is an anti-rotation press and hold. Kind of hard to see. I am holding on to a handle here that has resistance, so that handle is trying to pull me back, right? If the rack is on this side, it's trying to pull me that direction. I have to hold it there, so it's an anti-rotation. I'm preventing that rotation from happening. So this is working more of that lateral anti-rotation core. And so when you think of battles in front of the net, in the corners, really anywhere on the ice, you're always getting pushed. And if you get pushed, that attacking player can get in and get the puck, well, you're going to lose the puck. So if you're stronger and you can hold them off, protect that puck, well, you're going to be more effective on the ice. This is a bear crawl, so this works without getting too much. That anterior core again. We are getting a little bit of quad work, just because the quad's going to have to kind of stabilize in this position. And then we're also, getting some good work through the back as well. So once again, this is early on in programming, just understanding, building strength in a specific range. So I'm not moving with this exercise. Sometimes you'll see people walk with it, whether it's forward, backwards, rotating. Right now, it's just a hold. Just, can I teach my body to be strong in a specific position? Here's a proprioception example. So this is a proprioceptive exercise. It's a hop and stick. So you hop and you stick the landing. So that was a linear, so straight ahead. This is lateral. The first one was to, I'll play it again. So the first one was to the medial side, so inside edge. Actually, can I even play it again? I won't. Just might screw this up. So the first one was straight ahead, so I'm controlling my forward momentum, being able to put the brakes on. The objective of that is landing and not skipping the land, or landing really hard and being off balance. It's to be as firm as you can possibly be when you absorb and then touch yourself down in this exercise. Then you're like, okay, can I control that momentum going to my inside edge, and then can I control my momentum going to my outside edge? So this is stuff we do early on in our programming. Once again, it sets the stage so we can be more effective down the road. This is a power exercise, so we would, once again, this would be like somewhat early on in our power development. It's a seated squat jump, so you start on the plow box, and then you jump as high as you can. Pretty simple. The reason why you want to start seated is because you have to produce all that power yourself. So when you look at, if you're to do a squat jump, you start up tall, you drop down. Well, as I drop, I absorb energy, so then it's easier to reproduce that energy so I can be more explosive. So if I'm trying to get faster, can I train the body, right? Our athletes, can I train their body to be seated and then just jump, right? Kind of like make power from nothing. Well, the more efficient you get at that, the more explosive you can be on the ice. Here's another power exercise we're gonna do. This is lateral power. So I'm in a half kneeling position. I want to lean forward. I want to put my foot a little to the outside. So I want that weight on that inside foot. That's where I'm going to be striding into the ice. So I want to load, once again, producing that power from nothing. Getting down, foot out to the side, leaning in, finding my angle, and then when I'm ready to go, it's like pushing the ground away as hard as I can. Doesn't have to be quick, because we're working on power. We're not working on velocity, which is speed. We're working on power. This is a dumbbell, single arm, single leg, lateral lunge. So here, even though that knee is at a fully flexed position, because we're telling our athletes to get a little further back into their hip, we would consider this a little bit more of a hip dominant exercise than a knee dominant exercise. So we're trying to work that glute in that lateral position. You know how I broke down like upper body, lower body, push pull, vertical, horizontal, all that type of stuff? Well, there's also something called your sagittal plane, which is your forward backwards. So if I was to be here and walk forward, I would be in my sagittal plane. So exercise-wise would be your squats, your lunges, anything where you are building strength straight ahead and straight back. A lot of strength coaches or a lot of programs I've seen spend too much time in that sagittal plane. Too many exercises are working that movement. This is what we call a frontal plane exercise, so out to the side. So as I move out to the side, I'm in my frontal plane. Well, when you stride in hockey, where's your striding leg going? Is it going right behind you like you were sprinting? No, it's going out to the side a little bit, right? It's about a 45-degree angle. So your exercises in your program should kind of resemble that. You should have a lot of frontal plane movements or exercises in your training program. So here, with this specific exercise, dumbbell would be in this hand. You would step out to the side, drop down nice and deep, and then you push the ground away and come back up. I'm working that lateral push. When I get on the ice, I build strength in that movement. This is a dumbbell, single arm, single leg RDL. So we're targeting glutes and hamstrings. So this is a unilateral hip dominant exercise. This would be back into that in that sagittal plane movement. So once again, lots of programs have exercises like this, which are great exercises. At the same time, though, it's not where you need the most strength. So while this is important, you got to make sure this isn't the only thing you're doing. When we tip over this exercise, we want to have all our weight shift back into our heel, and then as we stand up, we think, okay, now I'm going to try and like pull the ground a little bit. I want to think about squeezing that glute and driving up, and I want to get through hip extension. That glute is such an important muscle for speed because it allows your hips, or it gets your hips through hip extension. If you don't have a very efficient glute, your quads are going to burn out on the ice, and you're not going to be as fast because only one muscle group is trying to do all the work. So you have to train your glutes and train them properly. Here's an acceleration drill. So it's working on, I'd call it kind of acceleration power. It's working on that first step. How quick can you get out of the hole? Once again, producing power from nothing. So you're down in that half kneeling position, you pop up nice and explosively, and as soon as you hit the ground, now you're taking off. That's where the acceleration part comes in. We would do this drill, if you're like, once again, look, goal line is here, like we might go to the end of the table. Think about your position, where you play, right? I was a defenseman, right? I might be in the corner, all of a sudden the puck gets chipped behind the net. Well, I gotta get there as fast as possible. I gotta accelerate there. I don't need top speed, I need acceleration. Or I'm in front of the net, puck gets chipped, over here. I gotta quickly get out, close the gap. So figure out your position, the distances that you probably skate the most. Well, your acceleration work should be within that distance. Otherwise, if all you're focusing on is like longer sprints, right? Goal line to goal line. I don't know how many times in the game you actually go as fast and as hard as you can, goal line to goal line. So your acceleration needs to be shorter in distance. Here's another acceleration drill. So this is a wall drill. So you lean up against the wall, right? You can kind of see we're very similar position with our legs. Here we're working on how quick can we go through this exchange. So this is 100% acceleration. This is just the speed at which you can move your legs. So I start in position and it's quickly switching your legs So one is going through extension, so how fast can that leg go out, while the other one's coming through recovery. How fast can that leg underneath you? The quicker you make that transition, the faster you're going to be on the ice because, well, your legs are moving quicker. If you have lots of power and you move your legs quicker, well, you're moving that much faster. So here's a reactiveness exercise we like to do. This is a depth jump to box jump. There are 3 other exercises that we would do before we do this one. So we wouldn't throw our athletes right into this exercise. Think of this like calculus. So the first one you do is just like a regular drop squat. So you're just dropping down into position as fast as possible, learning how to balance your body, weight transfer, distribution from side to side. We'd work on that first. Then we'd work on a depth jump, so just straight depth jump. So you'd literally be on this little block, you'd step off and you'd land. So now you're at a higher height, you're doing the same kind of action, you drop down in, how well can you absorb force? Then from there we would just do a regular depth jump, so you would just literally drop off, land, and then jump as high as you can, and then land again. So we would progress to this exercise. With this one, I'll show you a video as well. We step off, we want to spend the least amount of time on the ground, right? We want to be reactive, off the ground, think like a bouncy ball being dropped. As soon as you hit the ground, spring up onto the box and control yourself. So you drop, spring up onto the box. So you don't need a high box to fall off of, because the higher that box is, the slower you'd be in your transition. And then the box you're jumping up onto doesn't need to be that high either, because you need to get your hips up off the ground. You don't need to tuck your legs as much as you can. So the objective here is minimal ground contact time. So now we've worked on all those things to be more explosive, right? Develop better strength, have a stronger core, so our energy transfers better through our body. And then now we've figured out how to put it into being faster, right? Being reactive and faster, all those things. And so in the conditioning kind of component of your off-ice training, I know a lot of people just love to go for runs. Like, oh, I run. That's how I get in shape. Well, running's not good for you. It really isn't. And when you think of that reactiveness, when you run, your foot spends a lot of time on the ground before you go into your next stride because, well, let's be honest, we're slow when we run. So these are the times. So these are records. 13 to 14-year-old girls. You can see they date back all the way to 1999. So we're going to go to the 3,000 meters. So this girl ran 3,000 meters in 9 minutes. So 3K in 9 minutes, 35 seconds. That's fast. When you break it down, she is running a 19.17 second 100 meters. That's slow. Like, that's really slow. Right? You look here, the record's 11. So while this is the record for 3,000 meters, her average is 19. So if you do that enough, well, you're not getting faster. Then if you break it down, so the 1,500, she's a little bit better. She's 17.91 seconds per 100 meters. And then the 800, she's 16.02. The 400 is 13. So you can see, like, as we get shorter distance, their 100 meters is faster. Once again, 100 meters, this is like, I don't know if this is 100 meters to be honest. I think this is less than. So you're never like going further than this distance. So why would you ever run? So this is like, this is pretty close. Like, this is impressive. Like, she's basically running a repeat 100 meters at 11:61. So running 3,000 meters really, really fast is 19 seconds. Like, you wouldn't even be like qualified to be racing beside this girl. So just think about that when next time you want to go for a run. And why running makes you slow is your body adapts to the stimulus. So when you run, that's the stimulus. That's what you are providing to your body. When you lift weights, that's the stimulus. Your body adapts to whatever you provide to it. So when you run and you run slow, even if you're fast at 3,000 meters, 3K, you're still slow. So your body will adapt to that, right? When we look back to those acceleration drills, moving your legs quicker, you're teaching your body to move the legs quicker. then it produces force faster. When you run, you're moving your legs slower. So then your body gets used to producing force at a slower rate, which then makes you slower. And then hockey is anaerobic. Right? I told you earlier, you're on the ice, you go hard for 45 seconds, maybe a minute, you get off the ice. 3 lines on a team, maybe 4 at some of the higher levels. So it means you're getting on the ice every 3 minutes, maybe every 4 minutes because there's stoppages of play and all that. So your recovery is a 4 to 1. You work for 1, you recover for 4. You work for 1, you recover for 4. That's a game of hockey. And then you do that maybe 10 times, like maybe 10 times in a period. It's probably more like 8. So you do that 8 times in a period, then you get a flood. That takes 15 minutes. Then you do another 8, and you get another flood, 15 minutes. So hockey is an interval. So once again, running makes no sense. Your conditioning should resemble and very closely replicate what you need to be better at conditioning-wise. When you look at the definition of conditioning, it is you are able to repeat the same output over and over and over again. So if I was to line you all up on the goal line, sprint you to the red line, and let's say we all did it at the exact same time, it all took us 3 seconds to do it, and you glide back to here, and I'm like, okay, we're going again. Boom, we do it in 3 seconds. Awesome, we're in good shape, we're conditioned. We just repeated the same thing again, 3 seconds. You glide back, I tell you to go again right away. Ooh, all of a sudden now it's 3.2 seconds. We're a little slower. So we're only conditioned enough to do 2 in a row with no rest. So now you come back, okay, we're gonna rest 30 seconds. Boom, you go again, back to 3 seconds. Awesome. Now we know we need 30 seconds of recovery to be able to repeat that same output. As you do that more often, your conditioning gets better, so you need less rest. Maybe you get 4 in a row before you need 30 seconds. So that's what your conditioning should look like. You need to track, like, how long did it take me to do this thing, and can I repeat it, and I measure my variables. My rest is X, can I continue to repeat the same thing? That is your conditioning. That's what it should look like. That is your anaerobic system. The cool thing with your anaerobic system is when you do this type of training, which is anaerobic, you also improve your aerobic capacity, which is also important. When you just go for those runs, yes, you're building a better aerobic capacity. However, your anaerobic capacity is not getting better, and you're making yourself slower. So the one style of training fixes 2 problems. The other style of training makes you worse, doesn't fix anything. So here's a sample day. So we would start, this would be like a little bit later on into our programming. So you'd probably think like June, maybe July-ish. So we'd start with our wall drill, where we're going through that extension and flexion up against the wall. We would do our seated squat jumps, right? So now we're working on power. So we got some acceleration with the first one, we got some power with the second one. Then we have our half kneeling lateral bounds, working on that lateral power. And then our half kneeling starts, which is that initial power. Then we get into our acceleration work. From there, we would do front squats. So this is a bilateral exercise, working the quads. We're in that sagittal plane. Then we would pair that with a front plank, working that anterior core, which then helps create better stability. We get back into our front plank. Then we have our dumbbell single arm lateral lunge. So we are in that frontal plane now. We're working that lateral push. We pair that with another core exercise. We have our anti-rotation press and hold. So we're working that rotational and lateral core strength. And then we would be back into the glute and hamstring and that sagittal plane with our dumbbell single arm RDL. And then our bear crawl hold. So we like to pair other exercises with our major lifts so we can work more things at once, right? The front plank doesn't take away from the front squat at all. The cool thing is the heart still has to work during the front plank. So we raise up our heart rate throughout the front squat. Then we get into our front plank. Body's still working, so that heart is still doing its job. So aerobically, we're getting better without having to go for long runs. So underlining here is a really good aerobic conditioning effect. And it's hard to talk about training without nutrition. So I know we're tight on time, so I won't rush through it. However, I won't spend as much time on it. So carbohydrates, very, very important. You gotta make sure you get enough carbohydrates. So first off, you need to know how much you weigh in kilograms. And then you girls should be between 8 and 10 grams of carbohydrates per kilogram of body weight every day. So the example I have here, so if you're weighing 110 pounds, which would be 50 kilograms, you would need between 400 and 500 grams of carbohydrates in a day. And it's best to consume these around exercise, typically post-exercise. And you want to make sure that the carbohydrates are low on the glycemic index, which means they don't raise your insulin as much, so they're more of your complex carbohydrates. Unless it's right after training, then you actually do want something that is more sugary based. It's higher on that glycemic index because that does release more insulin, which helps build your muscles back up faster. So there's timing of this stuff. Protein, very important. Every cell in the body, from a hair follicle to your quad to your bicep, it all uses protein. So you need it in your diet. Once again, if you weigh 110 pounds, you should be between 90 and 125 grams of protein a day. If you're unsure how much you're eating, you have to track it. Chances are you're under eating. Most athletes do under eat, especially protein. So you have to get it in you. Best time of the day, first thing in the morning, get your protein in you, and then every meal should have a little bit of protein in it. After you exercise, for convenience, probably have like a protein shake. If you can do whey, do whey. If you need a vegan base, if you don't digest whey, then obviously consume that. Fat is important if it's good fat. So think of like your healthy fats. You should be around 1 gram, probably closer to 1.5 grams per kilogram of body weight. Avocado, almonds, walnuts, think healthy fats, your olive oils, that type of stuff. You want to avoid the saturated fats, of course. Hydration. If your cells aren't hydrated, right, you've all heard it before, your body's about 70-75% water. So if you don't have enough water, well, you're dehydrated, your muscles won't contract as well. They won't be able to do the job they need to do, which will hinder your performance on the ice. They also did a study where they weighed all the athletes prior to testing, and then the ones that lost 2% of body weight, so if you weigh 100 pounds, 2% is only 2 pounds. This is all caused by through sweat, so you're dehydrated by 2%, where your strength and power goes down. So if you're playing a game and you're dehydrated, you're not going to be as strong battling in the corners, you're not going to be as powerful on those races. So hydration is super important. The best thing you could do is first thing in the morning, drink 200 to 400 milliliters of water right away. While you sleep, you dehydrate yourself. Every time you breathe, right, if you were to go up to the glass right now and blow on it, the glass would fog up. Well, that is because there's moisture in your breath. So while you're sleeping, you are losing low levels of moisture. So when you wake up, you're dehydrated first thing in the morning. Get a big cup of water in you first. If you need to, if you're someone who sweats lots, throw salt in your water. There's salt hydration companies now as well, so they have salt packages. You can do that, and then add lemon lime slices to your water for taste, or also has some health benefits. We won't get into it. And then the best thing, right, carry your water bottle around with you. Drink water every 15-20 minutes. You also want to make sure you get all the calories in, right? If you're in a calorie deficit, which means you're not eating enough food, one, you're not going to grow as well, right? Your bones won't form as well, your organs won't form as well. Your brain is an organ, so you might not be as smart if you don't eat enough food. And then your recovery from that exercise won't be as good, right? So that all that work you're doing, putting in the gym or on the ice, you're not going to get that adaptation. Your body's not going to adapt to it because it doesn't have the fuel. You're in a deficit. You are negative food. So you need to eat. You have to get the calories in you. And if you can, right, think like every 3 to 4 hours, I better be eating something, whether it's a big meal or a snack, get something in you. That's what I said at the start, like finish your snack, it's important. And then if you don't get enough calories, right, your immune system isn't as strong. So you're gonna get sick more often. You're going to get hurt more often. And if you're sick or hurt, it's much harder to train. It's harder to perform on the ice. So you have to make sure you're getting all those calories in and make sure you're getting that protein in. Supplements help. Obviously on the go, like today, it's hard to sit down and have a big meal, so getting your booster juices, getting that extra protein in it, supplements help. Two things you want to look out for. You want to make sure it's NSF or it's informed choice. What this means is that if a supplement company selling their product and they say these are the ingredients that are in my protein or whatever it is, well, they're the ones that are being held accountable for it. No one else is holding them accountable, so they can say whatever they want. As soon as they get an NSF, they're going to a third party. They're like, hey, can you please test this product? We're saying that these things are in it. This company would then take that product, test it, and then basically validate, saying, yes, everything you're saying that is in there is actually in there. This costs a lot of money, so not a lot of companies do it. However, because of the level you gross plate, you have to make sure it has this or it has that. Both these companies are doing that. Once again, doing a study, they found 5 to 20% of supplements on the market either had banned substances in it, so something that wasn't on the label was in it that you would test positive for, and then you'd be ineligible to compete at a national level. 5 to 20% of products had that in there that didn't have these two validations on it. That's scary. So you have to trust what you're putting in your body, because supplements, like I said, they serve a purpose when you are on the run and you're on the go, and yeah, it's tough to get all those calories and all those nutrients in you. The other thing too, only caffeine, creatine, sodium bicarbonate, which is a buffer for your muscles, beta-alanine, and nitrate. Only those supplements have actually been proven to work. So everything else on the market is just good marketing. It's just a supplement company saying like, hey, take this thing will happen for you. Because in theory, it makes sense. However, it's never been actually scientifically proven. So save your money, right? Protein powder obviously works, it's just protein. Carbohydrate powder works, it's just carbohydrates. You start looking at the other stuff that is more like performance enhancing, these are the only ones that have been proven to work. All right, so I know this might seem like a lot, and it might be overwhelming. Who has their phone here right now? Does everyone have their phone on them? All right. If you want, so I will provide you with a checklist. So everything that I went over in the presentation today, I will send you a checklist so you can go through and be like, all right, what have I done in the past? Am I kind of doing everything that needs to be done? So if you want that checklist, pull out your phone right now, follow me on Instagram, so it's martell.elite.fitness, and just send me a DM that says checklist seminar, so then I know it's for you, and that way I can provide that for you. So if you want that, do it right now. I'll give you a couple minutes. I'm gonna have a sip of coffee.